All right, so we're on session two talking to Nancy Wallace Laabs. Today she's going to be talking about vision boards. If you've ever dealt with a vision board, but she's going to take it at a different level. So you're going to see that today. So please pay attention to this. And she's going to show you how she went from a vision board to something visual to something that became something part of her heart. So Nancy, take it away.
All right, thanks, Lyle, and thanks everybody for joining back. So, all right, so vision boards. So I have a little bit different aspect on vision boards. Number one, I've been to all those classes where you sit there with the magazines and the kid-friendly scissors and glue, and that doesn't really work for me because, yeah, I cut out the pictures of the fancy houses and the cars and the vacations, but when it really boils down to it, there's just a few things that I'm really passionate about that fit into my spiritual vision board. And so number one is just my overall belief in, helping humanity and being a good person, that kind of thing. Number two is my family, my daughter and my husband, just near and dear to my heart, making sure they're happy, that we have the best life that we can have together. And then giving back. I love giving back, and giving back for me comes in different forms. It's like helping people to become better real estate investors, or helping young people, aspire, like the story I was talking about with Gabe, about him aspiring to be, a director in a blood bank. Just the giving back, and not being afraid to, as I've gotten older, it's like, well, maybe I do have a couple things to say, and so when one of my visions had always been from a young age is to write a book. And so that finally came to fruition last year. It took me a year to do it. And so one thing about our visions is that, it's all good to say, oh, I want to live in this house, or I want to drive this car, whatever, but your true passionate visions, sometimes they're not things that you can put your hands on. It's what we feel here or maybe here. And so for me, writing the book was like, what was I going to write about? Would anybody buy the book? What do I have to say? And, I've had some success as a real estate investor in speaking about how, as a woman, it started out the differences between men and women, because there are some, but what we decided to do is tell our story, my story and 9 other gals that I know here in the Dallas area. And it literally took about a year from start to finish. And during the course of that year, there were times I'm like, oh my gosh, this is a lot of work. Why am I doing it? I'm not getting paid for it. And when I say paid, because remember, the whole amount of time I'm spending writing the book, I'm not working on my real estate business. So I had to add in the time to get the book done. Meet with the gals, get the editor. When I remember my publisher, when I was the guy that helped me with the book, he's like, well, he goes, why are you doing this? Because if you're doing it to make money, you shouldn't be doing it. And I was like, no, I'm not doing it to make money. I'm doing it to say, hey, I'm here. It's kind of cool to think about when my daughter will always have this piece of me, right? My story will always be somewhere in a book. It kind of gives you a little tiny piece of immortality or whatnot. But the other thing is, I wanted to be more about just how can this help other people? Because remember, I said I'm really passionate about is helping other people. So I feel that my story and the other gals' stories, what we really are saying in the book is that, hey, we are just normal people. We just took the skills that we have. We all started out, not knowing anything about real estate. We all found a mentor. We all talk about that. And we did it. We just started taking action. We didn't know what we were doing at first, but we just started taking action. We got into coaching programs. We had mentors. We educated ourselves. There is a lot of information out there, but, you really do need an accountability partner. You need networking and that kind of thing. And so that really would help people. And then number two, any money we did make off the book, I wanted to share that with another organization. So we set it up. I contacted Hope Store in Plano, Texas. They're a nonprofit organization that helps family heal from domestic violence. So every time a book is sold, they get some proceeds from winning deals and heals. So what I like about the book is not only did I tell my story, it's helping other people, and I'm helping even more people that need help, that I'm in a position that I can do that. So then fast forward, not many years, but a couple years later, then I said, then COVID hit. And, we were kind of sitting here and couldn't really network. And I found myself with some extra time. And so as an entrepreneur and a person who's like, you always got to be taking action. But now it was like, okay, well, what kind of action can I take? I can't go to networking. I can't do public speaking. And Brian and I have had great success with single family homes. And I truly believe after the COVID and when all things done, like there's a lot of real estate investing about commercial, multifamily. But you know what? Single family rentals have been the bread and butter of our business from day one. And I truly believe that everybody can attain wealth, create financial freedom, retire early, quit the 9-to-5 job through single family investments. Now, it doesn't mean that you can't do it from multifamily and commercial, but you know what? Right now is probably not the best time to be investing in them. And when you think about it, single family stands the test of time. People are always going to need a place to live, always, no matter what is happening in our economy. People will always need a place to live. They won't always be able to buy a home, but they will always want to rent a home as opposed to an apartment. So I said, you know what? I'm just going to start writing all this down. And so what I did is I created the Profitable Landlord System. Twofold. Number one, I wanted to help other people achieve the same level of success that we had achieved through our single family rental portfolio. And I wanted a way to give back. So personal story for us is that, I said that my family is part of my biggest spiritual vision board. And my husband, Brian, unfortunately has suffered from a mental illness, chronic depression for most of his adult life. And when I say struggle, he's been on antidepressants for over 20 years. He's been to every kind of therapy you could ever want, like bio, talk, you name it. And in 2018, he had a breakdown from all of the meds. As you get older, your hormones and your body change, and the antidepressants, his doctor just kept prescribing, okay, well, let's try this. And because nothing was working, and he kept getting all these different pills in his system, which finally the combination of all that medication, he just had a breakdown, and he had to be hospitalized so that he could be taken off all of those meds. He ended up developing like Parkinson-like disease, shaking. He couldn't concentrate. I mean, literally, he was a mess. And so he had to go to the hospital. I had to become his advocate, because if you've ever been through anything like this, he at that time could not make decisions, right? He didn't even know what was happening, right? And it was a very scary time. So we went through hell through that couple weeks, and we didn't talk about it because at this point in time, no one knew Brian really suffered from that. So I didn't tell anybody. Only maybe 1 or 2 people knew what had happened. So I was dealing with our real estate business and doing all these things, my public speaking, while my husband was in the hospital. And a lot of people didn't know that. And why? Because we don't talk about mental illness, because we have the shame, the stigma, what are people going to think, So after he got out of the hospital, we were very fortunate to be introduced to a psychiatrist that was able to get him stabilized on the medicine. And she introduced us to a new treatment. It's been around. None of his doctors or therapists had talked to us about. It's called TMS, and it's called, it stands for transcranial magnetic stimulation. It is not shock treatment. Basically what they do is they map your brain. It's non-invasive. Brian had 36 treatments. It's like a little, they map kind of the area of your brain. And what it is doing is it stimulates the serotonin that chronically depressed, sometimes bipolar people don't have. That's what's causing their chronic depression. And you know what, Lyle? It is a game changer. After maybe 10 treatments, I could tell something was happening, and it was good. It was positive. It was a game changer for Brian. It changed. I won't use the word cure, but it lifted his depression in a way that none of the meds had, that none of the talk therapy had. And a testament to that was that we had planned a family vacation, and there was always an issue when we got done with the vacation. It just, because it's taxing and all that. And Brian, I think for the first time in over 20 years, was able to go on a vacation and actually enjoy it. Wow. So when all of that happened, I said, you know what, we have to let people know about this. And so now we have this vehicle, this Profitable Landlord System. So we want to help people build wealth. But again, going back to my vision of giving back. So we have allocated a minimum of 10% of the proceeds of the Profitable Landlord System to fund a nonprofit that we created. The nonprofit that we founded is called Map of Hope visionboards.net. You can look it up on the website. And what it does is it does two primary things. Number one, raises awareness that normal people like Brian and I, like most people that know Brian, would never know that he suffered from depression. They might thought he was a little grouchy from time to time, but they would have not ever guessed. Number two, to talk about, to take the shame and stigma away, because as a man, Brian, he couldn't join us today, but he's talking about his story. And number one, it's kind of therapeutic for him to do so, but also he's sharing his story so it can help other people. And two, we're raising money to help pay for the TMS treatment. So the TMS treatment, approximate cost for that treatment is $12,000. Now, we were fortunate. We had insurance and it paid for his treatment. But you know what? Had it not, we would have found a way, because it's life-saving. It's a game changer. If you are someone that either lives with someone with depression or you actually have depression, you do yourself a favor and go talk to your primary care physician or your psychiatrist or whoever about this treatment and see if it's right for you. And so that kind of all feeds into my vision, because I want to help people become better real estate investors and be able to have the life they want. But more importantly, I want them to be able to get treatment if they need it. And there are people that need this treatment, but they can't afford it. And so that's what Profitable Landlord System is going to do, and what Map of Hope is going to do for people.
Great. If you're watching this video, if you're online somewhere other than our website, go to optimizeprofitability.com and look right below this video. We're going to have all the links to all these places. If you can donate towards this, or if you've been impacted in your personal life, definitely put some time into that. Donate some money to it so that other people can get past this situation in life, because it is tough. It is a tough situation. You don't understand in the middle of it.
You don't have to suffer in silence, and I think that's the thing too, is that not that we had suffered, but when we started talking about our story, people were amazed. But then what happens is they said, well, you know what? My cousin, my daughter, my son, my mom, then you start realizing, and I would, and then because we're doing this during COVID time, there's on the news about how people are so anxious, and not that that's the TMS treatment is for that, but I mean, we need to take mental health out of the closet, mental health illness. People suffer, and they don't need to suffer needlessly or be judged for it. And I think just talking about it helps, that they're not alone, that there are other, and like I said, Brian and I are both one of those people that I think you can tell is like it's not like we didn't ask what's going on. And no one in 20 years didn't tell us about this treatment. And it took him being hospitalized before we found out about it. I have some other issues about that, but, I'm just glad that we finally did find out about it and that he was able to get the help. And not only did it help him, but it helped our marriage and our family, because when someone in your family suffers from depression, the family suffers from depression, and we never talk about it unless a famous person ends up committing suicide. Then there's all this talk about depression and how it's in our society, but then it blows over and we don't talk about it again until some other famous person, and so it's sad that those even famous people have that, and they didn't even feel like they had the ability to speak out about it. So that's what we really are about with the Profitable Landlord System. So it's not just about helping you get to a certain level and enjoying your life, but it's also, giving back. So if you become one of our students, what you're paying for is also part of helping someone else. So that's what we love about it. So we can help you get where you want to be. You can help other people get where they want to be. And, so that's really, when you think about a vision board, that's my vision. Just it's the old school, treat one another like you want to be treated, and we can make all the world a better place.
Right. Great. All right. So we're going to end this session on vision board and passion, and we're going to go into a little bit deeper dive into your Profitable Landlord System. We want to know a little bit more about that.
Okay.
So if you're a real estate investor and you've been listening in all this time, go to the next step, because we really want you to pay attention to this course. We want to tell you how to get it and what all is in it. So I'm going to pick our brain a little bit, because I don't even know anything about it either. So we're going to learn together.